Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to walk you through starting up a dialer, how the dialer runs, and going through a couple of the reports you can look at to keep track of your dialer. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go into one of our clients and we're going to want to go into a dialer. Now I already have a dialer set up for some badass leads. Now if you wanted to set up a dialer yourself, the very first thing you're going to want to do is create a campaign. Now, once you create a campaign, there's not a whole lot else you have to do. You can go into the campaign, like the Badass campaign, and you just click on Dialer. And now you're here and you have all your dialer settings. So, as you can see, we've already run the dialer a little bit today. And right now it's turned off. And there are a few settings you can do. Right now it's ratio mode. You also have predictive mode. So in ratio mode and predictive mode, you can set your redial delay. The redial delay is pretty self-explanatory. It essentially means the leads that aren't finalized, so the ones you just haven't reached yet, and or the ones who maybe said call you back later and didn't give you a time, this is going to allow you to set the delay. Now obviously, generally speaking, you'll have this set to some odd number of hours, but for demo purposes, I'm going to go ahead and leave it set for 5 minutes. To the right, you're going to see the dialer specific settings. So these settings are going to be for ratio. And right now, you can set the ratio yourself here. So right now, it's 1-to-1. So this just means that it's going to call one contact for every one agent that is live and ready. Now, you can set this anything from 1 to 10. And on the left here, you can set what you want, which number you want to use for your caller ID. So right now, we just had it set to a main number. Now, the next setting, you can assign an IVR whenever it detects an answering machine. Now, the IVR will ideally only have a message node that will play for the and leave a voicemail for the contact. Now, you can also specify disposition you want to set if it's an answering machine. Right now, we just have not interested disposition, nothing that really fits. So we're not even going to set a disposition on an answering machine here. And on the contact settings, you can select the filter. So contact filters, which we haven't gone through yet, allow you to specify leads or contacts and put them into groups. Now this could be based on when the contact came in, or it can be based on custom fields. So we've created one already. We've called them Badass because, well, there's me and another Calltacular engineer on this list. And that's who we're going to be dialing on. So contact dialer order is essentially is newest first, oldest first. So newest contacts first or oldest contacts first. We're going to go ahead and leave it as the newest contacts are the first ones out. So the first contacts in are the first contacts out. Now, by default, it's off. To turn it on, you just hit on and then save it. Now, when you save it, a dialog will appear. To make sure you're dialing the most relevant leads, we have to rebuild the hopper. There may be up to a 1 to 2 minute delay in dialing while this happens. Now, those of you familiar with VG Dial will know what a hopper is. If you don't, what a hopper is, it essentially allows us to put leads into a bucket that's just ready to be called right now. That substantially increases the number of calls per second we can make for your campaigns, instead of just pulling them out of a giant bucket of contacts altogether. So now it's on. The only thing we're waiting on here is for a user to be on the dialer. So on your left here, you have a lot of stats. You have the number of users on the dialer, how many dial attempts you've made, how many contacts you've made, how many calls are in progress, which means that they haven't been answered yet, how many calls were failed. That means if the number just wasn't valid, and the call went out and it just failed for one reason or another. How many of them were invalid, which essentially means that the calls failed twice. So we've gotten the same failure 2 times in a row. It gets marked as invalid. How many drops you've gotten, what percentage that is of your overall calls, how many were an answering machine, and what your contact rate is. It also tells you how many minutes you've used. So you can also get a lot of these details in the report section under dialer overview. So we haven't made any sales yet, but this gives you essentially the same details on a per campaign level. So to get started, let's go ahead and go ready. To go ready, we click on the play button, we'll click on campaigns, and we'll go ahead and click on the campaign and go ready. Now you'll hear you are now ready to take calls, and that tells you essentially what it says. I'm ready to take calls. So we have that message play so that the agents and people on the dialer can be sure that everything's working. The web phone's working, they can hear the audio. And now the dialer will begin dialing calls. As you can see here from the client dashboard, the dialer's running. So I'll answer this call. Hello? Now when I answered this call, you'll see that the script popped up. It has my name as the agent, and then it also has my name as the contact already filled out in these fields. This is the order entry that we've gone over in previous demos. So I'm going to go ahead and hang up this call, and a disposition will pop up. There, just hang up. And now we'll hear you're now ready to take calls again. So now the agent can set a disposition. Now if the disposition has a callback set, they can also set the callback time. We don't have a disposition set up for that yet, so we're going to go ahead and leave it as a selected disposition because the call was not finalized yet. Now we could dispose and pause, which means we'll dispose the call and then we'll go paused. But we want one more call, so let's dispose the call. And now there's one more contact that's going to get called. So since we had the ratio dialer set to 1, it didn't start dialing this call until I was done dispositioning my previous call. So now it relies on calling the other Calltacular engineer, and what I should hear is a beep once it finally connects. And thank you for calling support. This is Anthony. How can I help you?
Hi, I was hoping to get support with my account.
Unfortunately, this is off-hour support, and if you're a Calltacular employee, we don't support you at all. So I'm going to go ahead and have to hang up on you. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.
You are now ready to take calls.
All right, there we go. We showed him. So now I'm done making my calls. I'm going to go ahead and go paused. Now another report that you're going to find useful is going to be the agent time report. Now as you can see, today I've spent 33 minutes and 39 seconds paused. I've spent 2 minutes and 20 seconds ready. I spent 1 minute and 20 seconds in a call and 42 seconds dispo. Out of all that time, I've only actually been in a paid status for 4 minutes and 22 seconds. And paid status means that a status that I've actually been, that's been marked as paid. So our general pause, we don't have marked as a paid status. You can change that, and I'll show you real quick, even though it's slightly out of context for this video. But what you want to do is you go to Account Management and you go to User Pause Reasons. Now we don't have any set up here, but you can add one and you can mark it as paid. So if you have agents that need to take a break and they're going to be paid for that break, you can create a 15-minute break pause reason. And I'll do that real quick since it's so easy. 15-minute break, paid status. So we'll save. Now let's imagine I go ready on a queue. So I'll go ready on a customer support queue. And now I'll go pause. Now you'll see I have the pause 15-minute break. So I'll hit that for a little bit. And while I'm on break, I'm going to go show you one more report. So while you're running outbound campaigns, people may be calling inbound. Now the way we're going to be able to detect that is we have an inbound dashboard set up. Now when you click inbound dashboard, you're going to see some quick stats that you can also get in the report section. It's going to show you each of your queues, how many calls are in those queues. It's also going to show you how many current calls you have, what the answer percentage of those calls are, how many calls you've answered in total today, how many total calls you've had today, how many abandons there were today, percentage-wise, and then how many abandons with the actual number. This gives you a snapshot of all your inbound calls, and this allows you to get a really quick rundown. You can also click the phone button to pull or to show, calls that are in queue. And then you can hit the show stats button to show stats for this one specific queue. Now I'm going to go ahead and go ready one more time. So let's go ready for customer support again. And go paused. Now what you'll see here when we go back to the reports and the agent time is that even though I spent 36-minute paused, that actually got added to my paid time as opposed to not being paid. So that wraps it up for this demo. And future demos will go a little bit further in depth on showing you contact filters and how we can really get into the nitty-gritty of setting up your contacts to be dialed.